When my wife was helping our drunk friend into the room, I was lying in bed feeling uncomfortable in my stomach. She didn't glance at me and just laid our friend down on our bed, gently wiping his face with a towel. Our friend, in his drunken state, said, "Selena Hale, I want a hug." This brought a smile to my wife's face. She pulled me off the bed and told me that she would stay to take care of him tonight, suggesting that I go sleep in the guest room. She asked me to make seafood congee for him tomorrow because he likes it. However, she forgot that I'm allergic to seafood, and even just touching it could cause a problem. I'm holding my stomach, which has been hurting. Didn't she say she would buy me medicine? Where's the medicine? My wife impatiently said that this is an old issue and there's no need to be so particular about it, suggesting that I should find a way to deal with it myself. My resolve shattered in an instant when she decided to lend her body to give birth to the frozen embryos of childhood sweethearts for him and his girlfriend. I knew our marriage had entered a countdown. Later, she knelt down and begged me to love and care for her as I used to. Unfortunately, Selena was no stranger to bringing a drunken Noah Ward home. This time, she seemed completely indifferent to my feelings and directly helped Noah into our marital bed. When she pulled me off the bed, I felt a sharp pain in my stomach. "Noah has had too much to drink. Go make some hangover tea and add more honey. He likes it sweet," she said. I suppressed my anger and replied, "If you're worried about him drinking too much and having no one to take care of him, you could just take him home. His parents would help." Selena shot me a fierce glare. Ward's parents are older. How could I bear to disturb their rest so late at night? I frowned slightly. She seemed to care more about her 50-year-old uncle and aunt. Yet she appeared to have forgotten that it was my nearly 70-year-old mother who was busy taking care of her when she was sick with a fever. And this is the result. She always nitpicks and makes me uncomfortable, and even took away the living expenses I had set aside for my mother. She said that she lives in the countryside and grows her own vegetables, so she does not need any money. Are you planning to take care of him wholeheartedly? Selena realized that she was being held in Blaze Bennett's embrace, which made her feel a bit awkward. She gently patted the back of Blaze's hand and said, "Blaze, let go." Blaze slowly opened his eyes. She continued, "Earlier, when I was drunk, we used to hug and kiss." Selena glanced at me nervously and said, "He drank too much today and is talking nonsense. You shouldn't take it to heart." I snorted in response. "So, are you planning to stay in his arms all night?" Selena quickly wriggled out of Blaze's embrace and walked up to me. Seeing him in his drunken state, looking like a baby, made me feel a bit uneasy. Despite the bitterness I felt, I suppressed those emotions. He is an adult and can take care of himself, so I helped him to the guest room to rest. Before I could even touch Blaze, Selena pushed me away. Angrily, she said, "Noah, I married you, not sold myself to you. Who I choose to associate with is none of your business. Blaze isn't used to the guest room bed, so don't make things worse." As soon as the words were spoken, Blaze naturally gathered Selena in his arms, as if he had done it countless times before. "Baby, our bed is really comfortable. Having you here will definitely make for a wonderful night." I felt a tightness in my chest at the mention of their bed. Before getting married, I wanted to buy a new bed, but Selena insisted she was used to this one, so she moved the bed from her rental apartment to our new home. She claimed her attachment was due to being accustomed to it, but in reality, it was because this bed held too many memories between her and Blaze. I took a deep breath, just about to speak, when Blaze spoke up again. He was holding his stomach, indicating that he wasn't feeling well. I looked at my wife as she took out some painkillers from her pocket. Blaze smiled. "Baby, I knew you would remember that I tend to have a stomachache when I get drunk. Years have passed, and you still carry stomach medicine in your pocket." Selena seemed to realize something. Her expression changed slightly as she looked up and said, "I'm just used to it. It doesn't mean anything. We've been apart for several years now, and we are just friends." I gently pressed my lips together. "Since you are just friends now, you shouldn't mind giving your husband the medicine, right?" Before I could finish speaking, Selena had already handed the medicine to Blaze. Seeing this scene, a wave of bitterness surged in my heart. It turns out that love and indifference are truly so evident. Your stomach pain is an old issue, you can endure it and it will pass, while he suffers deeply even with just a bit of discomfort. I slammed my hand on the table. Selina, I cannot be magnanimous enough to share my woman with other men. So please think carefully about whether you choose me or him. Selina rushed in front of me and slapped me. Noah, you are going too far. Is there something wrong with me taking care of a friend? She said. I warn you, if this continues, I will divorce you. I pushed my tongue against the inside of my cheek, then called my childhood friend, Lara Ellis, in front of her. Lara, wake up early tomorrow. I'll treat you to breakfast at that place we used to go to. I ignored Selina, who looked quite upset, and walked straight out of the room. Standing on the balcony of the guest room, I lit a cigarette and took a deep puff. The scene of my first meeting with Selina flashed through my mind. At that time, I was so focused on completing the project that I treated the office like a second home, sometimes not even having time to eat when I was busy. She was the boss's daughter, and when I was on the verge of fainting due to stomach pain, she appeared in front of me, took me to the hospital and cared for me there. I developed feelings for her. After the project was completed, I began to pursue her, and 6 months later, she agreed to be my girlfriend. Our marriage came naturally, calm and warm. However, this happiness was disrupted by Blaze's return to the country. He occasionally asked Selina out. I was initially opposed to it, but her coquettish behavior left me helpless. Perhaps their relationship was rekindled under my indulgence. I didn't sleep all night, while the soothing voice of my wife comforting Blaze occasionally drifted in from the next room. The next day, I emerged from my room with dark circles under my eyes and saw Selina busy at the stove, smiling slightly. She must have been preparing breakfast for herself. I stepped forward quickly, intending to hug her from behind, but I noticed the seafood on the stove. I'm allergic to seafood. Selina glanced at me and pouted, saying that it was seafood porridge prepared for Blaze, and there was none for me. I clenched my fists. Blaze emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel around his waist, his shirt open at the top, revealing his athletic build. Selina's eyes showed a hint of shyness. Hurry up and put on your clothes, so you don't catch a cold, Blaze said as he walked up to her. Noah, I need your help these days. I was momentarily taken aback. Selina naturally buttoned up Blaze's shirt. Blaze hasn't been feeling well lately, so I decided to let him stay at my place for a while. I'll take good care of him, and once he recovers, he can move out. I rested my hand on the dining table. What if I disagreed? Selina let out a cold huff. This is my home, and I would like to invite my friend to stay. You don't have the right to oppose that. If it feels inconvenient for you, you can stay in the office until Blaze feels better and can come back. Selina stopped paying attention to me and placed a bowl of seafood porridge in front of Blaze. Blaze took a bite and gave a thumbs up. Baby, you're amazing. By the way, have you talked to him about what I mentioned last night? Selina glanced at me and said directly, my body is my own. He has no right to interfere. Blaze nodded and then said to me, Noah, don't worry. I will take care of everything. Once Selina gives birth, I will take the child and leave, so I won't disturb your lives. I didn't understand. Selina casually looked at me. Blaze's girlfriend passed away in a car accident a year ago, and they had frozen an embryo. So I will be having this embryo implanted in my womb to give birth to their child. Hearing this felt like a bolt from the blue. I was utterly shocked. I looked at Selina in disbelief. Are you joking? That's not allowed in our country. Blaze smiled. Don't worry. I'll take Selina abroad and take good care of her and the baby. After the child is born, I will safely bring the baby back to you. I ignored Blaze and turned my gaze to Selina, saying coldly, if you insist on having his child, we will get a divorce. With that, I left without looking back. I stumbled into the office in a daze, my head pounding. My stomach started to feel uneasy as well. A cup of warm water and 2 pills were handed to me. Instinctively, I looked up. It was Lara. my little sister who had grown up with me in the countryside. Noah, you won't feel any pain after taking the medicine. A gentle voice brought me back to my senses. After taking the medicine, I tiredly sat in the chair. I'm sorry. I promised to have breakfast with you, but I couldn't make it. Lara smiled. That sweet smile made me feel as warm as spring. When you and your sister-in-law have some free time, I'd like to invite you both to my home as guests, and I will personally prepare some delicious food for you. I couldn't help but smile wryly. After all, Selena is a young lady from a wealthy family, so how could she possibly enjoy countryside meals? I recalled the first time I brought her home to meet my mom, who happily prepared a lavish feast. However, she didn't eat a single bite and even thought that my mom's cooking was not good. To this day, I still remember how embarrassed my mom was at that moment. After Lara left, I picked up the picture frame on my desk. In the photo, I was hugging Selena, wearing a happy smile as if I had the whole world, but her expression looked quite heavy. I inadvertently noticed the ring on her finger, and my heart suddenly tightened. That wasn't the wedding ring I had carefully designed for her, but rather a couple's ring from a well-known brand. If I remember correctly, I had seen the male version of that ring on Blaze's hand just this morning. The surroundings were eerily quiet. I gently traced the wedding ring on my finger and gave a bitter smile. After a while, I silently removed my wedding ring. I opened my computer and typed out a few words. Divorce agreement? It wasn't until early morning that I returned home, feeling very weary. Selena wasn't there. I dialed her phone number. The phone rang for a long time before finally connecting. Just as I was about to speak, Blaze's voice came through the receiver. She had already gone to sleep. We could discuss things tomorrow. The call was abruptly ended. I sighed wryly and placed the signed divorce agreement on the table. I never expected that for the entire week that followed. Selena wouldn't come home. I was too lazy to look for her, spending my days going back and forth between the office and home. Although the days were ordinary, I found a sense of relaxation and ease that I hadn't felt in a long time. When I got home, I could easily collapse on the sofa without having to prepare 3 meals and a late-night snack for her based on her recipes. I also no longer had to track her ovulation cycle just to gain her attention during those days and fulfill my dream of becoming a father. Half a month later, Selena returned with Blaze's help, looking a bit pale. Blaze helped her to the sofa, and then the phone rang. Seeing how happy he looked, I thought he might be in love. Baby, I have something to take care of, so just rest at home, he said. Selena nodded obediently and replied, Okay, I'll be good. Seeing the sweet exchange of glances between them, I couldn't help but smile. After Blaze left, Selena finally turned her attention to me. I haven't eaten anything all day. Could you prepare some snacks for me? When I heard this, I smiled slightly, feeling that her tone had a hint of condescension. I replied, There's still work to be done at the company, so I need to leave first. Smack! Selena angrily threw a pillow at me. I'll call my dad in a moment. You don't need to go to work anymore. For the next 10 months, you'll just take care of me. I'll have my dad send you a salary. 10 months. My heart tightened involuntarily as my gaze fell on her belly. Selena gently placed her hands on her belly, smiling brightly. The transplant had been very successful. Meanwhile, my heart felt like a smoldering ash, as all my hope was shattered in an instant. I picked up the signed divorce agreement and threw it down in front of Selena, saying, Let's part on good terms. Selena looked visibly surprised. Without my father's support, you would revert to the nobody you used to be, just a rural kid with nothing. Selena's attitude has further reinforced my belief that my decision is the right one. She has always lived in a sheltered environment and doesn't realize that my achievements today are entirely the result of my own hard work. Even after leaving her father's company, I can still thrive in other companies. After all, many of the orders at her father's company were secured by me. If I leave the team, her father's company might indeed feel the impact. Sign it. I support you and Blaze being together, so that the child can be born without any shame. Selena stood up, walked in front of me, and suddenly hugged me. Honey, don't worry, once I give birth to this child, Blaze will take him away, and then I will have another child for you. Just as I was about to push her away, her phone rang. That special ringtone made me want to laugh a little. Selena answered the phone, but the smile on her face quickly vanished. She said, "I'll be right over." After hanging up, she looked at me and took me to the hospital. Blaze was hit by a car, and I was too scared to drive right now. I didn't refuse after all until the divorce papers are finalized. She is still my wife, and if something happened to her, I would also get into trouble. Throughout the journey, Selena kept urging me to speed up, and even tried to grab the steering wheel a few times. Her agitation made me feel quite nervous. If anything happens to Blaze, I won't go easy on you. Upon hearing this cold threat, I shot her a glance and then accelerated. I watched as Selena threw herself into Blaze's arms without any compassion. She clutched Blaze's hand, her voice choking with emotion as she asked, "Are you okay? Does it hurt a lot?" "Don't worry. I'll call my dad soon and ask him to arrange for the best doctor for you. No matter how much it costs, I'm willing to spend it, as long as you're safe and sound." She took her bank card out of her bag. I glanced and saw that it was a supplementary card under my name. I need to go pay the medical fees and find the best doctor. I lowered my head and called the bank manager. "Cancel all the supplementary cards under my name," Selena said angrily. "No award, what do you really mean?" I picked up the bank card that had fallen on the floor and angrily snapped it in half. Selena was so infuriated that she gritted her teeth and pointed to the door, saying, "Without me, you are nothing." I simply smiled faintly and turned to leave. As I reached the door of the hospital room, I heard Blaze's voice. "Honey, don't be angry. He's just someone who is pursuing you. Don't indulge him. Wait for him to come back in a few days and have him apologize to you." Selena smiled. "All right, I will make him apologize to both of us then." I felt a bit uneasy as I noticed Selena gently caressing Blaze's face. A month later, I completed the project I was working on and decided to resign. While I was packing my clothes at home, Selena and Blaze returned. They were chatting and laughing, but as soon as Selena saw me, her smile vanished. "If you apologize to me and Blaze now, I would forgive your previous actions." Blaze stepped in front of me, looking quite pleased with himself. "Noah, as a man, you should be a bit smarter. Selena is a rich young lady, and your salary might not even be enough to cover the price of one of her bags. If you want to live a good life, you have to keep her happy." I brushed off his hand on my shoulder and said disdainfully, "Mr. Bennett is very smart. He is willing to ruin someone else's marriage for his own benefit. I admire your values." Blaze recognized my sarcasm, and his face turned a mix of pale and dark. Selena, witnessing this scene, felt a pang in her heart and raised her hand. This time, I directly grabbed her wrist and sat her down on the sofa. "Selena, when I loved you, you were the most special person in my heart, but now you feel like a stranger to me." Selena was taken aback. She clenched her teeth and asked, "Noah, are you really going to divorce me?" I smiled faintly. At this moment, my decision is the clearest I've ever made. The formerly proud Selena actually signed the divorce agreement. She angrily pointed at me and threatened, "I will make you lose everything." I didn't want to respond to her fury. I simply took my suitcase and the divorce papers and left. The moment the door closed behind me, I heard Blaze's triumphant voice. "Baby, I can finally have you openly again." I couldn't help but scoff. Such a combination truly complemented each other. I'm not sure what Selena and her dad talked about, but my resignation process went very smoothly. During the 30-day cooling-off period of my divorce, I started a trip with my mom. We visited many cities she had wanted to go to in her youth but never had the chance, and we learned more about the local customs and culture. My mother's smiles have gradually increased. At the end of the calm period, I took her back to her favorite countryside, and then I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Selena was late. I called her more than a dozen times before she finally arrived slowly. Seeing her again took me by surprise. Aside from the slightly protruding belly, she has lost a lot of weight, and her face looks somewhat pale, giving her a frail appearance. After walking just a few steps, she started to breathe heavily. To my surprise, Blaze, who had promised multiple times to ensure she had a good life, had not shown up. Just as I was about to leave, she tugged at my sleeve. Selena blinked those eyes that had lost their former brightness and asked, "Can we not get a divorce?" She shook my arm, thinking that I would forgive her actions as I used to when she acted cute. I pulled my hand away and said coldly that we should say goodbye. Selena suddenly hugged me. Tears soaked my clothes. "I don't want a divorce. You are the best man in the world to me." Just as I was about to say more, Blaze suddenly charged at me, swinging his fist. I quickly dodged and kicked him. Blaze winced in pain and fell to the ground. I stepped on his chest, applying a little pressure. Blaze grimaced in agony, and Selena looked on with concern. I pounded my chest with both hands. "Let him go. If anything happens, I won't spare you," I said with a cold smile, retracting my feet and taking 2 steps back, distancing myself from the couple. Selena was trying to help Blaze to his feet. "Baby, leave him. I'm here for you, and I'll make you happy." Selena smiled and lifted her chin slightly. "I feel uncomfortable just seeing you." I was taken aback. She had changed so much that I completely forgot about how she had begged earlier. Less than half an hour later, I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau with my newly issued divorce certificate. Selena and Blaze then walked out, and they took a kissing photo in front of me. They posted it on their social media along with their divorce certificate. "Having you is enough." I scoffed and turned to leave. Selena shares posts about their affection on social media every day. More than a month later, she announced that she would have a wedding with Blaze, stating that Blaze promised to give her a unique ceremony. A friend sent me a few photos on the wedding day. It truly was a special wedding. The lawn in the park was somewhat cluttered. Selena wore a wedding dress, but accidentally revealed the rental tag. The wedding rings of the two of them looked quite ordinary. They were just simple silver bands, far inferior to the expensive wedding ring I personally designed. "Selena, is this the life you wanted?" I scoffed at it. I didn't want to work for others anymore, so I decided to start my own studio. Former team members who used to work with me have gradually joined my studio. Without the support of me and these partners, Selena's father's company would have struggled to survive. My business abilities have also gained recognition from previous clients, and several consecutive projects have helped me establish a foothold in the market. Lara continues to bring breakfast to the office as usual. She has matured now and has become my invaluable assistant. "Selena has been outside, and she wants to see you." I raised my eyebrow. After having breakfast, I finally had Lara bring her into the office. In just 6 months, Selena's belly has noticeably rounded out, but she has lost a lot of weight. In the past, she always wore designer clothes and adorned herself with jewelry when she went out, but now there isn't a single branded item on her. The only notable piece she has is a somewhat faded wedding ring. Tears glisten in her eyes as she has lost her former confidence and pride. Instead, she stands in front of me, looking at a loss for what to do. "Is something wrong?" I asked calmly. I naturally accepted the coffee that Lara handed me. Selena pointed at Lara and angrily questioned, "Did you divorce me because of her?" I helplessly shook my head and nodded toward Lara. Lara turned and left the office. Selena approached me and opened her tightly clenched fist, revealing the wedding ring that she never wore. "I found it." I frowned slightly. "What comes next?" Selena quickly handed the ring to me. "Noah, can you help me put the ring back on? I promise I won't lose it again." After saying this, she took the silver ring off her finger and looked at me with hopeful eyes. I gazed at the wedding ring in my hand, feeling a wave of emotions. It was a ring I had designed myself. To give her a unique wedding ring, I polished it myself, and I carved the letters on it one by one. But now, as I twist my wrist, the ring was accurately tossed into the trash can. Selena looked shocked. "How could you throw away my ring?" I nearly laughed out loud. The next second, I was stunned. Selena, who has always been a neat freak, was actually rummaging through the trash can for that ring. Her hands were covered in garbage, yet she seemed oblivious to it, picking up the ring as if it were a treasure. I found it. I shook my head and directly called Blaze. Take your wife away. About 10 minutes later, Blaze arrived at my office. When he saw Selena, his expression darkened. Is he here to see your old flame? Does he want to break up with me? I'm telling you, there's no chance of breaking up unless you give me 500,000. Selena's eyes flickered a bit. Seeing her hiding behind me, Blaze became even angrier. He raised his hand. I instinctively grabbed his wrist. Selena smiled. Noah, you still care about me. My family has gone bankrupt. Can you help me with 500,000? After I divorce him, I will love you properly, and we can have a good life together. The Hale family is bankrupt. I'm a bit surprised. After all, even though I left, Selena's father still has means to maintain things for a while. I let go of Blaze. I'm not interested in your affairs, and if you don't leave right now, I'm going to call the police. Selena was taken away by Blaze forcefully. I got a brief understanding of the situation with the Hale family. Shortly after Selena and Blaze got married, she threatened to commit suicide to force her father to hand over the management of the Hale family to Blaze. However, Blaze wasn't skilled in business and had offended nearly all the clients within a few months, while also embezzling all the company's funds. This infuriated the old man, who suffered a stroke and is still lying in the hospital. It's no wonder Selena ended up in such a situation. Having lost her financial support, she may have already lost her value in Blaze's eyes. I thought I would have no further connection with her afterwards, but unexpectedly, Lara was attacked on her way home. Watching her endure the pain as she bandaged her wounds made me feel a pang of sympathy. Can you see who attacked you? Lara bit her red lip gently, hesitating to respond. I understood a bit, but didn't press her for more details. After taking care of the wound, I hesitated for a moment and decided to bring her home. After all, it was concerning to think of her living alone in the staff dormitory. Once she was fast asleep, I headed to the bar. I found Selena, who was busy promoting drinks and had quite a noticeable baby bump. When she saw me, she looked surprised, and a glimmer of excitement flashed in her eyes. Noah, you came to find me, didn't you? She said, pulling out the ring she had picked up from the trash can. I've been waiting for you. I knew you would come to me. You love me so much. You wouldn't want me to suffer. I took a step back. Why would you want to hurt Lara? Selena was taken aback and took a moment to react, her face revealing a hint of a sinister expression. Did you come to find me because of her? I frowned. Don't hurt her again, or I won't let you get away with it. This is what Selena once told me, and I'm now returning it to you exactly as it was. Her expression changed slightly. With a pleading look, she said, Noah, I really love you and can't accept the idea of you being with another woman. I acted on impulse and had someone teach her a lesson. In fact, I initially intended to take her to the police station, but seeing her belly made me change my mind. I don't want to get involved with someone who is married. Just as I was about to turn away, Selena suddenly knelt down and hugged my legs. Honey, please don't leave me. I really love you. People around us immediately noticed. Her embrace was so tight that I couldn't move my legs for a moment. Selena, stop messing around. But she acted as if she hadn't heard and continued. Noah, I really love you. I'm willing to change everything for you. As long as you love me like before, I can give up anything. I was at a loss for words. Selena, what about your self-esteem? She shook her head, and tears streamed down her face. I have already determined that you are the best person for me in this world. Why can't you just forgive me? Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly clutched her stomach. I felt a bit anxious too. After all, she is in the late stage of her pregnancy now. After a struggle, we finally managed to get Selena to the hospital. Fortunately, there were no major issues, but her body was quite weak, and she needed to stay in the hospital until she gave birth. I was right there when the nurse called Blaze. I clearly heard a woman on the other end say Blaze. The patient's family said they had no money and that if they were willing to give birth, they could do so. If not, they could terminate the pregnancy. I sighed, as there was nothing I could do, so I ended up hiring 2 caregivers before leaving. When I got home, it was already dawn. Lara had prepared breakfast. To avoid you getting hurt again, please come to work and back home with me from now on. Just as I finished speaking, my phone rang. It was a call from the caregiver. I could hear Selena throwing things in the background. I rubbed my forehead. She didn't want to stay in the hospital, so let her take care of the discharge procedures. I hung up the phone. Lara looked at me cautiously and asked, "Are you still worried about her?" I smiled. I understand the little girl's feelings better than anyone else. I pulled her onto my lap, and she was already a thing of the past. Lara smiled. "I am willing to be your present continuous." I gently cupped her face. Just 3 days before my wedding with Lara, Selena came to see me. Her stomach was completely flat. I noticed some stains of blood on her dress. Instinctively, I pulled Lara behind me. Upon seeing this, Selena couldn't help but burst into laughter. I know I have no chance left, right? I didn't want to say much to her, so I told her directly that my love for you disappeared every time you supported Blaze. She collapsed onto the ground, quietly murmuring, "I have nothing left now." The baby was born prematurely. I was somewhat taken aback. After a long while, Selena finally struggled to get back on her feet. "Could you hold me again?" I smiled slightly, but felt a wave of discomfort in my heart. At that moment, I experienced a profound emotional impact. Selena's body seemed a bit unsteady. Her face was as pale as paper. Yet, I felt no turmoil within. When she knelt and begged me, I calmly shut the door. 3 days later, my wedding took place as scheduled. Although it wasn't a grand affair, both families offered us their warmest blessings. When Lara was 3 months pregnant, I learned about Selena from a friend. After being attacked, she made an extreme decision. She injured her attacker and then went to the hospital, where she cut off Selena's father's oxygen supply. By the time the police found her, she had already taken her own life, dressed in a white dress. A friend sent me a photo, and I recognized that dress at a glance. It was the first gift I had given her. The photo in her arms was taken when we shared our first kiss. With that wedding ring on my finger, I smiled faintly. If I had known it would end up like this, why did I even start? "Honey, do you want some fruit?" I silently deleted the incessant voice messages he sent, where he hoped I could accompany Selena on her final journey, and insisted that my wife and I were not on the same path, claiming that my wife couldn't be compared to Selena at all. I walked into the kitchen and embraced my wife, whose belly was slightly rounded. From that moment on, my world felt complete.